Alright guys, in today's video we're looking at this GE Profile front load washer. This is a 2008 to 2010 model. When you look at the inside door and you find the model number, this one's going to be in the series WPDH8 So anything after that is going to be like a color code. It's going to apply to all of these. And the problem we've got, like right now it's plugged in, and right now the controls are completely unresponsive. I'm going to show you a couple of clips where intermittently the keyboard is responsive and then it gets hung. So that this looks like a control board problem more than likely, although it could be a physical issue behind this control panel. Either way, we got to get in here to do further diag. So what we're looking at here right now, so this is plugged in, so you can power it on. We power it off. Normally, a couple of things I'm going to show you that's wrong. Normally I should be able to access the service menu with this turned off by using the key sequence extra rinse, delay start, extra rinse, delay start. We should get a menu here. We don't get that. All right, so we know we got a problem behind the board area here. If we power this guy on and we press the extra rinse button 1, 2, 3 times before it actually activates. So there's something going on with this button. This is a copy of the service manual for this series, and again, this is only going to be applicable to this series of washer. You might have a 0, 1, 2, or 3 after this J, and then a couple of letters that indicate the color. There were like 3 different colors for this. So we got to get in here, and if we look at the service manual for how we're going to get in here, this front piece here is the control panel. And so to get this off, we're going to have to remove the top panel, which is this metal piece on top. That's held in the back with 3 7mm screws. When you pull those, this guy's just going to push back towards the back, and then you can lift it up. I'll show you in just a moment. And then to get the control panel assembly off, after you take that top panel off, you're going to pull the dispenser out. There's 2 Phillips screws here. And then there are going to be 3 sitting on the back. 1, 2, 3. And then with that in place, we'll be able to lift this up and off, and then we can disconnect the wiring harnesses that are connected to it. When we put it back together, there's a little alignment peg they want you to see that you put in before you snap it back in. And then this control board that we're after is mounted to the back with 4 6mm hex head screws. So we're going to have to remove this knob at some point, and then this piece we can unbolt and take out. And then to replace it, we'll have to transfer over the VFD, the vacuum fluorescent display, and that's simply 1 wiring harness and 2 plastic tabs. So let's go ahead and get started in the back. Just to show you, because you can't really get the camera back there, but using this little mirror, we can see there's one, and there's the other one, and then all the way over here on the end, there's the last one. So I'm going to pull those 3 screws, and then we'll remove this top panel. All right. So if you got room, you can use a Phillips screwdriver. All right, we're going to slide these over and just set them next to the dryer. And then, like I told you, when you get those 3 screws out, this top panel is just going to work backwards. Just one quick move like that. And then we're going to lift up on it, but we're not going to remove it. We're just going to kind of sit it back here out of the way. The next thing we're going to do before we get anywhere further, we're going to reach back here and de-energize the unit. Going to kind of hang the cord on one of the hoses for the water back here. All right, so now if we look around with the camera, we can see those smaller fasteners. 1, 2, and 3 that are 6mm. So we're going to grab a 6mm socket. We're going to see if we can get them out with that. We might not have the clearance. They might require a screwdriver. Let's see. So this one we can get to. This middle one is the one I'm worried about being able to actually get to, but let's see. Yeah, I can't really get the socket on flush there, so we're going to have to go screwdriver on this one. Now these are in there really tight, so you're going to want to push in so you don't strip them out until they get loosened up. All right, and then we got one more all the way over here in the far corner. I think we can switch back to the socket for that one. Maybe not. Nut driver. This is the only thing that's holding it on. All right, so these tabs they were referring to in the manual, here, here, and here, and one at this end. So what they suggested we do, actually, hold on a second, guys, I forgot to do this piece here. So service manual mentioned removing this dispenser and then taking these two Phillips screws out here and here as well. Forgot about these two. Now we've got all the fasteners out. All right, so what it suggested was we should be able to just lift up on it and then move those tabs out. There we go. So you just kind of grab your hand back here and lift up on it, and then that locator tab down here, it's kind of stuck in there. There it goes. All right. And then we got one harness here. Just give it a squeeze with your thumb so that you can get it to let go. And now we've got this out, and there's the control board. So to get this guy out, we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 fasteners. But we also have to remove this knob. That's what the service manual indicated. So let's go ahead and see if we can pull this off. Might have to get like a little plastic prying tool. It's old plastic, so we definitely want to go nice and gentle with it. Yeah, let me get a plastic prying tool so I can lift this up evenly. All right, let's see if we can get a small plastic pry tool on both sides of this. All right, so what we're wanting to do is we want to get this out without any cracks. It's got like a little bit of a spring tension to it, but it came out without any cracks. So far, so good. Now, we'll take these 4 6mm bolts off. We can either use a nut driver or a screwdriver, doesn't matter. There's one. There's 2. There's 3. And one more over here. All right. Now with that out of the way, this board separates from the control panel. And we can, for the first time, get a look and see if we've got any problem with the control panel. So these are the micro switches. You can push them for the various buttons. And when you actually press the physical buttons on the control panel, it moves these guys. So what we're first looking for is any of this broken, because what we were noticing is that we don't get consistent functionality on the buttons, and sometimes it hangs up. Now this one, I think this is okay that it moves. I think this is a replaceable button in the service manual. So that one's going to move. The rest of these, this one also looks like it's replaceable. We're just looking to see if the hinges broken on any of these buttons. It looks like it's okay. This one's also functional, snaps in. I think this is another replaceable button. These are not replaceable. You can see they're plastic welded onto the control panel. This is a replaceable button. So these buttons all look fine. So I do believe our problem is something to do with these micro switches. And so we're going to swap this board out. So this display has to get transferred like we saw in the service manual. So we're going to disconnect that, and we're going to just push up on these little black tabs. 1 and 2. Yeah, let me just move some of this stuff around so that you guys can better see. All I'm trying to do is move this little tab down and this little tab down and lift this little board off when I do that. All right, so now we got this little board off. So now what we're going to need to do, we're going to need to transfer this little cable to the new board. So that's a kind of a similar little latch inside here. All right, get that off. All right, guys, looking at the old board, I also noticed that this back button kind of stayed connected to our original board, and we're going to have to transfer it to the new board. And let's set this in the very back for now. The board for this washer is a GE WH12X 10387. This only fits this washer. So inside here we got a brand new board, and we've got to add these items on that we just took off. And then we'll be able to remount it, reverse what we did, and we should be back in business. So let's go ahead and do that. So we've got this little guy first. This little guy second. So there's two little tabs here. This guy's going to sit in those first. Then we got these little pegs that go on these holes that are cut in the circuit board. Just make sure you got it lined up. No need to rush. Just trying to see why it's not snapping in. Okay, just making sure this mount is exactly the same as the old one. There's a little shelf here. There's a little riser here, and there's a little shelf here. That should be all we need to do in the back. But we just aren't getting it to where it wants to settle in. There it goes, maybe. I heard it try to go. And I just want to be very cautious, guys, because these parts are mostly discontinued by now and hard to come by. I think what I want to do is I want to get something I can kind of coax these two back a little bit just to get past the initial friction we seem to be getting on these two tabs. All right, so I've just got a little spudger tool that I'm going to use to make like a little ramp here. to help coax this stuff along. Now we can reconnect this guy. And now we've got everything properly done. Both these are snapped in, both those holes are in place. And those are both sitting back in, and this is all back where it should be. So we're just going to get rid of any fingerprints we might have made on the display. And then we're going to remount this to our control panel. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put those 4 6mm screws back in, and then I'll bring you guys back. All right, and then we'll transfer our back button back into position. All right, last one here. There's no torque value on these little 6mm fasteners, but you are going metal into plastic, so don't do anything other than snug. All right, so all of our buttons are in place. They all feel like they're correctly actuating. Now we want to put this guy back on. So he's got like a half moon shape on one side. You want to line that up with the half moon shape on the black stem. It snaps in. And we're going to do the wiring harness and get that to snap back in correctly. This peg is going to go in that little hole. Okay. On this side, we've got to get this to fit in to the frame of the dispenser and then push it down. Snap it in, and then we'll put these 2 long Phillips screws back in. And this one here as well. Again, it's plastic, metal into plastic, so you just want it snug, and then we can reinstall the dispenser. All right, at this point I'm going to plug it back in and see if we've got functionality. All right. There we go. So we have functionality. What we're doing is just making sure that all the positions are working. Okay. And what I want to watch here is you've got a set of 5 LEDs on each of these. We'll be able to exercise all of these LEDs by going through each of these positions. Okay, all of this stuff seems to be working okay. The lock disables the UI, lights up red, 1, 2, 3. The smart dispense, if you have it, would light up. If you don't, you get a message here. My cycle, pre-wash, extra rinse. Okay, that's all working. Delay start, settings, stain inspector. All of our buttons appear to be working. Power off, power on. Great, looks like we fixed this problem. The last test we have, we couldn't get into the service mode with it powered off. Extra rinse, delay start, extra rinse, delay start. Finally, we can get into the service mode. So one of the things I'm going to show you here is we're going to go down to version info, and we're going to see what the EEPROM firmware levels are. So for the user interface and for the machine control. And I will put up here on the video what level they should be for the final. If you've got a green dot like this somewhere in this area, it means that a recall was applied to this washer. I'll put information about this recall below as well. If you had a GE technician do what we just did, they would update this firmware if it was the wrong level to reflect the recall. You'll have to do it yourself since you did the repair yourself, but there's that information. Let's go ahead and hit the power button to go back. And what I want to do here is go into, find it here, EEPROM test. So what I'm doing is I'm testing that board we just installed. I'm not sure how long this takes, but there we go. We're done. So now we go back. The other test I'm going to do is a UI test. Right? So we're seeing that all of these light up, and now all of these light up. So this test has now verified that all of the LEDs on the new board, as well as the screen, are working properly. I think this is going to finish on its own. I'm not sure. Might have to kind of exit out of it here. Yeah, have to exit out of it here. All right, so I'm going to go all the way back. Shut this off. Now it powers up normally. So now what I'm going to do is reinstall the top cover. So I'm going to pull this back into place, reinstall those screws, and we'll give it a test run. All right, with 1, 2, and 3 installed, then we can pull the top panel back forward, and we can put our 3 7mm screws in the back. All right, we've got all those fasteners back in. We've taken the time to set up a particular cycle so that we can activate it with the My Cycle button. I'm about to start this just as a test, just to show that it's working, but I'm pretty sure everything will be fine because we passed all of those tests. We've got a small load in the washer. Locking the door. And we're just going to make sure it does its thing. All right, we see the drum assessing the weight of the clothes. I don't know if you guys can see that in there with things that are turning around. It's always an involved dance with this particular appliance. I don't know if it's coming through on the microphone, but we can hear some relays going inside the unit. Now we can hear, I don't know if that's coming across on the microphone, but the water valve has opened, and we can see down here that water is flowing into the drum unit as it gets ready to start this cycle finally. So far, it's all working as expected. All right, so the drum motor just kicked on, and we can see that it has finally started the actual cycle. This particular cycle that we've programmed here, hour and 2 minutes that it's going to run whenever it gets past this point, but I just want to see that we get past this initial piece. I'm not going to hold you guys here for the entire time. I just want to see that we're doing the correct, what we're used to seeing with the water, the turn, stop, the water, the turn, like it stopped again. This is normal. It puts some more water in there. It's just trying to evenly wetten the clothes. This is a very good test of the firmware that's on this new board because this is all part of the programming. So it'll put some more water in here now. It'll roll them around to get everything nice and soaked. If you ever wondered why it's doing this, it's trying to get things evenly soaked so that you don't have a lot of vibration when you start turning for the cycle. All right, at this point I see that the timer has started. If we come back up here, it has gone down. So at this point I know it is into the cycle and past the prep mode. And I'm satisfied everything is working okay because we can see the countdown has begun. And I think this problem's fixed. So hope this helped you out on how to replace the control board of one of these WPDH 8800J 2008, 2009, 2010 type GE Profile washers. If you got questions or comments about what we did, leave a comment below and I'll try to help. If this did save you some money to get what you need fixed, appreciate you paying it forward by hitting that like button. And as always, thanks for watching.